Hello, this is Erin Kline with Alaris Mortgage, and I am really excited to introduce you to and to talk with my friend Mark Zoril. Before we jump into talking with Mark, I want to tell you a little bit about him. Mark is a financial planner or has a financial planning advice business. He's been called the most loved financial planner in the world. He's really unique in that his financial planning advice works off of an annual or a monthly fee subscription type service if you choose to keep him on retainer. His firm offers financial planning advice. They offer educational videos, screen share sessions to show people how and what to buy. And he's worked with several thousand clients representing 100 different nationalities, which is just amazing. Thank you, Mark, for taking time to chat with me today.
Thanks, Erin. Glad to be here.
So your business just fascinates me, and I've never met anybody like you or that has a business like yours. And I think it's so unique and so special and makes financial planning accessible to a lot of people. So can you describe what a financial advisor might do for their clients so people kind of have context?
Yeah, I think I'll describe this in the sense of how financial advice can be provided by the industry. And this is kind of big picture stuff, but people might have questions about where to invest, how much to save for their future, should they pay off debt, how to pay for college, retirement, those kinds of things. And so you would seek out the help of financial advisors, and that's a pretty broad brush, really. There can be advisors that work for different companies and different types of companies, meaning mutual fund companies or insurance companies, and they might be part of a distribution system. Or what's a bigger or growing part of the industry are independent advisors. That's these advisors that set up their own practice and just work independently. They're not affiliated with any large distribution system. And so all of these advisors, for the most part, would just provide guidance to people that want help in these areas. And so as a consumer, I think what's important is that people have a good sense, or at least some sense, of how an advisor is compensated. How do they get paid for what they do? And so we'll get into in a moment on how we operate with our clientele. But as a consumer is looking for help, trying to find an advisor that they can work with, they're going to be advisors that are commission based. And so they might sell them an insurance product or a mutual fund, and they get compensated based on that. And then there are advisors that will call themselves fee-only advisors. In other words, they're not generating a commission, but they're getting paid based upon some fee related to the investment product. And typically, for the most part, that might be a percentage of the assets being charged.
Sure.
And in varying from advisor to advisor and from sales rep to sales rep, there are going to be different types of guidance that an advisor would say that they offer. Sure, we can help you plan for your future, or we can help you better understand how to pay for college or evaluate your insurances. So those would be the areas that we would find that people would want help in. I think if this is what your question is. And then the advisors will suggest that they can help you put together a plan and better understand your finances, how to accumulate money, how to live off that. But I think it can be misunderstood amongst many consumers how an advisor's compensation, how they get paid, can impact or construe the guidance they provide.
Right.
So I think I answered your question. I'm not really sure, Erin, if I
you did.
But that's what the industry, if I'm going to call it that, would try to do, is to help people better understand their finances, their investments, how they're looking today and for the future, and put together a plan for that. So that's a very broad answer, I think, to what your question was.
Right. Well, and I think that gives some context for people. And so let's move into more like, how do you work with clients, and really what makes you unique and different from those other types of models?
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. I'll try not to be too lengthy here. And I should say that, I've been in the industry for going on 30 years now, and I worked for a company called Valak for 17 of those years. And it was a fine, arrangement for me for several years, allowed me to get started in the industry and develop my craft and better understand the industry as well. And that lasted until 2012. And then I set up my own practice along with another advisor. We soon after kind of went our own ways. Just it was going to be hard to grow the business. So that's how long I've been doing it. And starting in 2012, I didn't want to work in an environment where I was part of a distribution chain and there were requirements on how many assets to gather and how to sell certain products. I wanted to work more independently. I had come to believe that the managing of money, the managing of assets was something that really didn't, that many people don't need to pay for. It's getting a lot simpler. It's becoming more of a commodity where you can go and have your funds managed for virtually nothing. And the technology and the development of the products, the investment products, has enabled that to happen. So I didn't want to do that. And I didn't want to have to sell products. And so I had this notion that I could run this business where people would just give me money, pay me for advice. You pay me, I give you some advice. And I'm not incentivized to sell you a certain product, whether it's a commission-based product or what's called an assets under management or AUM product. So I started that in 2012. And a part of that business, Erin, initially was I was going to provide 401k plans to small employers. Like that was a bit of a niche that I had. And that didn't get off the ground when I converted the way that I want. I had a number of smaller employers, but the business wasn't growing in the way that I wanted to. And I was just more intrigued with this individual business thing or this individual financial planning thing. So I guess I had I don't know what you would call it, a light bulb moment or a brainstorm. I think I can do this for people for $96 a year. That was a number, I make that happen. And that was because I was using financial planning software. Initially, it was a company called Finance Logics. I was using theirs, and I thought, it doesn't take me that long to explain these plans to people. Like I can do this pretty quickly. And so I just arrived at this almost, so it sounds quite gimmicky, right? That I'll do this for $96 a year. And so that was my initial offering. And then I thought, well, people would be willing to pay that. I would hope so. And then they would just retain me over time. So you pay the $96, and then it would renew $96. Now I subsequently changed that pricing, which we'll get into in the moment. But we still have this retainer type of business model where you buy Plan Vision's guidance for 1 year at one price, covers you for 12 months, and then you retain us on an ongoing basis for $8 a month. Now, we're pretty far down the road with this thing. I've been doing it for essentially 9 years now. And we have found that our retention is excellent amongst our clients. We have very high client retention. People don't want to really have a quarterly or semi-annual or even sometimes an annual meeting with their advisor. And that's not what we promote. We would promote the idea that you can have an advisor available to you on retainer, a company like Plan Vision, where you just meet when you have questions and whenever something comes up. And so at this point, it appears to be a profitable business, a business where we can scale and grow this. But that is the model. You pay the upfront fee and then the retainer on an ongoing basis. We don't sell any products, don't get any of the referral fees. So it's a work in progress, but I'm pretty confident that in our industry, which it is a novel approach in our industry, that there's a really good place for our business. Whether we're going to be the one that would be the dominant provider or even a meaningful provider, we'll have to wait and see. But that's what the model is.
Well, and it is pretty incredible to think that you were saying, I'm going to charge somebody $96 a year versus you have history in this industry. So just for comparison's sake, for people who haven't used a financial planner before, let's say that somebody had $100,000 of cash that they want some advice on. What would they typically be paying a traditional financial planner?
So if you were to go buy a mutual fund, and this is more old school, but if you're going to go buy a mutual fund and they had A shares, which are commission-based shares, it might be the firm might make $4,000 on that, and then the advisor might keep $2,000 of that.
Mhm.
If it's an AUM model, which is really the most common way, and it's 1%, so
Mhm.
1% would be $1,000 a year on that asset.
Yeah.
If you buy an annuity with that 100, like, it's a 57-year-old and they sell you an annuity, that might be a 3 or 4% commission, maybe 5 or 6 sometimes.
Mhm.
So the commission is entirely different. I mean, a lot, or the total compensation is very different. And this was kind of what was happening in the firm that I was at, where they were suggesting that the way you set up your practice is you work with 60 to 100 to 150 people that we can call them high net worth people, but people that have money. And I don't know, you make 5 to 10 grand a year on these people, and that's your business, right? You need to
Mhm.
service these people. And for a lot of consumers that have that kind of money and they're not knowledgeable or don't care about what they're paying their advisor, yeah, that can work. But as we talk with our clients that come on board with us, they all do an onboarding survey. A lot of them just say, yeah, I realize what I'm paying my advisor, and I just don't see the value there. And so they're looking for a different way to do this. So people pay advisors in some cases a lot of money. So we're a nice alternative for that if you don't want to go there out.
Well, and also I think that there is a component of the financial services industry where they have a minimum barrier to entry, right?
Yeah,
You
there can be.
X amount of dollars for me to manage, or I'm not willing to provide you any advice.
Yeah.
And your model completely takes that away, so you can help everybody.
Yeah, it does. It's in some cases our pricing is so inexpensive that it's a deterrent for clearly some consumers. I've heard that before. Right now we charge $299 for the first year, and then renews at $8. And we've had different levels that we've gone up, but we've grown our business. We're now doing more tax planning, and I think our service has improved. But for some people, yeah, like, what am I going to get for that? So it's like a lot of businesses, how we price ourselves is a work in progress. But I think we're pretty close to where we're going to be. I should
Mhm.
also say, if you don't mind me just expanding on this a little bit,
No, please do.
is the way that we operate and how we communicate with our clients. It's very liberating as a financial advisor to know that I'm going to get paid the same regardless of the advice that I give. And that's a big issue in the industry. There's this notion that there's this discussion about the conflicts of interest that the advisor has between themselves and their client. And so this is going back about 15 years, maybe it's 15 years, to the Department of Labor issued these fiduciary standards for the retirement planning industry, 401ks, where there wouldn't be a conflict of interest. And a lot of this was promoted by the industry, moving away from commission-based advisors to fee-only advisors. Now, I've got a huge problem with fee-only advisors because these are advisory firms, which is the bulk of the industry, and they generally charge a percentage of assets. Let's just say it's 1%. And as far as I'm concerned, the conflicts are just as strong as they were. I mean, if you have just having an exchange with a client right now, and he's wondering whether or not he should do a pension, in other words, take his pension or do his lump sum.
Mhm.
It's an option that a lot of people have, depending upon where they work. Well, if he does a lump sum and he rolls the money out, in this case, it'd be about $230,000. If I'm the advisor and I'm going to bring that in under an assets under management at 1%, that's another $2,200 a year I get.
Right.
So if I tell them to do the annuity and not the lump sum, I don't make anything. The
Mhm.
same thing happens with paying off a house. Well, should I pay off my house or not? Well, if I instruct my client to pay off the house, I'm not getting, if I'm an AUM advisor, I'm not getting any compensation. And these types of conflicts exist all the time. But we've
Yes.
recently expanded and brought some advisors on board. And they have all said, look, man, it is so different how we can talk to our clients now. It's really just a relief to have these conversations where we
Mhm.
can give advice and not have to feel like we have to steer them towards product.
Right. You can give them the honest advice of what you would do if it was your own
Yeah,
money.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a comment I get from clients. What would you do if you were in this situation? And I tell them, well, this is what I do, and this is what I do, you know. So
Right. Well, that's
yeah,
what I love about you. I do the same thing. It's when people ask me, I'm like, I'm not going to tell you to do something different than what I would do with my own money, because then how could I be a good advisor if you don't put your
yeah.
money where your mouth is?
So
Uh,
that's how we operate. You know, we're a high volume business, but we meet with our clients individually. You know, they set
mhm,
up sessions with them. Now, when people work with us, they understand how we operate, though, that we're going to have to collect information. We have this onboarding survey, which takes about 3 or 4 minutes to do. They can put their stuff in for full planning. And we do a lot of full planning with our clients. We have an online system, eMoney, which is an advisor-based platform. We send them a link to that. We have videos they can watch where they do a lot of the data entry themselves. And a lot of
mhm,
them love it. They say, oh, this is really cool. It's a great way for me to get a better sense of what I have, and they can do it over their own time.
mhm.
Now we do help them along the way. They can reach out with questions, or they can even set up a meeting with one of our staff if they need help doing some of the data entry. But that's
Mhm.
the process that we go through. It has to be efficient in order for us to work.
To have low fees.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. And there's a lot of changes going on in the financial services
Yeah.
industry now, right? I mean,
Oh
let's
yeah. I mean,
talk about that a little bit.
this is a big one. Just compression on fees. On the investment side, which is, I guess you'd call it money management, or just, I guess, investing in general. Over the years, there's been more pressure on fees for the investments. And that was really primarily led by John Bogle, founded Vanguard in the mid-70s, and they're the kind of pioneer of all this low-cost stuff. And so when I'm referring to low-cost fees, I'm talking about the actual fees inside the funds themselves. So when you go buy a mutual fund or an investment, those products come with fees. Like,
Mhm,
let's say 1% is the annual fee. And with Vanguard, they always pushing their very low cost. Well, Fidelity, Schwab, BlackRock, and iShares, man, they all have very similar products, ultra low cost. In fact,
mhm,
Fidelity about 5 years ago rolled out their zero funds, which literally have no expense ratio. And you
mhm.
can buy them with no minimums. And of course, Fidelity is using that as an entree to get people to move assets to them and then hopefully buy other services.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of pressure on fees, which is healthy for consumers if they can understand that and still get good service, but it does reduce the overall drag on their investments over time.
Right. Well, and I do think it is a thing that's very confusing for a lot of people, like
Oh yeah.
the UM model versus the commission model. And is there a fee built in there, or isn't there a fee built in there? And you kind of take all of that away, and you know what to tell them to buy, and you're not getting paid anything.
Yeah, and then there's also a big part of the industry, and of course I'm kind of cynical about this, is the whole idea of overcomplicating everything. And so if you go to many advisory firms and they want to manage your money, it'll be in like 12 different ETFs or 24 different. And it looks like some sort of complicated mix of investments that, well, there's no way you could have done this. I mean, you need our team of scientists in the back room, like constantly about, like that's a part of how it's presented, that I
Hmm.
couldn't possibly come up with this on my own. It's too sophisticated. And
Right.
so my view is, yeah, it doesn't need to be this complicated at all. It's fairly simple to set a portfolio, but there is a learning curve for some folks to buy into that notion and understand that it really is this simple to have a nice mix. Like, for example, in my case, I have all of my funds, all of our accounts in our household in one fund. It's a Vanguard target date fund, works fine for me.
Hmm.
There are other kinds of simple choices too, whether there are these lower cost robo advisors, which I think still are a bit complicated, or there's all-in-one funds like target date funds. You can set up a nice simple 3 fund portfolio. So that can be hard for many consumers to get past, is the notion that, oh, it really is this simple. And I think the industry reinforces the idea that it is complicated, therefore you need our guidance.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and something I know that's really unique about you that we should talk about is that you work with clients all over the world.
Yeah. So we have two uh, client bases. We have our clients here in the States. These are domestic clients that we do planning for. And when I say planning, that might be just helping them get investments going. But in general, it's more planning for their retirement or planning for college. Those are the two big ones. And then also answering questions about life insurance or long-term care insurance. We don't sell any of that stuff, but we can provide thoughts about that. So that is planning for our domestic clients. There'll be tax planning as a part of it as well. But starting in 2015, I connected with a blogger, writer, and speaker he's fairly well known in the international world, Andrew Hallam. He was looking for advisors that would promote index investing, low cost investing, which is what we do. So I just happened to respond to an ad that he placed. And so Andrew would tell this story, this message to expatriates, people all around the world, Americans and others, that you need to go buy these low cost index funds, a great way to invest. And so that was what he was promoting, but he couldn't help people do it. So he was looking for advisors that would help execute these. And so that's how I started. Andrew put me on his webpage, and I started to get inquiries about this. And I started working with these people all over the world. Now, initially, it was just Americans, but I did learn how we could work with non-Americans as well. So when you talk about the world's most loved financial advisor, it is Americans, but it's also people of all different nationalities living in countries all over the world. And that is a bit of a delightful part of the work that we do, is just meeting these different personalities and people. And generally speaking, they all have the same goal. They want to save for their future, even though they may come from different cultures and have different attitudes about saving and money. That is primarily the same objective.
Right. Yeah. It's pretty fascinating because a lot of times I think people have this mental block of like everything used to be so geographically or zip code based. And now so many of us can work
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
internationally. And gone are the days where you have to be able to walk into somebody's office down the street to be able to find somebody that's really good fit for you to help you.
I have thought to myself, man, it would have been great for me if I would have thought about this business 25 years ago, but there's no way I could have pulled it off.
Right.
Yeah, there wasn't a way to make this kind of model happen.
Yeah. The infrastructure and the access to technology was just not there like it is today.
Also, with the way people use the web to engage, there's an excellent forum for a model like ours. Mm-hmm. People can learn from all these groups and forums where people exchange ideas. So people can learn from other people of like mind or have the same interest in some of these forums. And our business has grown significantly by popping up in these different forms. In fact, I should mention this. It's kind of funny, but we and I don't know a lot of this stuff, right? But we're actually, I do get I'm set up in Google, right? Anytime Plan Vision pops up somewhere on the web, that I get a notification that
sure.
popped up. So, anyways, we did pop up on ndnation.com. And I didn't know what that was. Well, it's the Notre Dame alumni athletic forum, right? And so somebody posted, hey, I need an advisor. I'm going to fire my advisor. I needed an advisor. And so somebody took Plan Vision and posted, hey, you should contact this company, Plan Vision. They're highly recommended on several Reddit groups. I knew we were on Reddit, but I didn't know we were highly recommended on Reddit. So this technology of how people share ideas that way is great for a business like ours.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's nice because it allows people to find other people they can trust who can help them, even if the person that you're getting the recommendation from is 100 miles from you.
Yeah. And for our global business, it's really valuable. Yeah.
Yeah. So if people want to learn more about your services or get a chance to chat with you and talk about maybe engaging you, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, here's how it works. They would I would recommend for sure, they just go to planvisionmn.com. That's planvisionmn.com. And we have information on our website. If you have any questions, I would recommend you just send them to info@planvisionmn.com. We do have a waiting list right now for new clients, but it's actually relatively short. And we've had a lot of growth since last August, and it's sustained itself. So we've been growing to meet the demand. So, but yeah, that's the best place to find out more is our website, and then any questions to our info box.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time to talk with me about this today.
I enjoyed it, Erin. Thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah, have a great day.